Shut up and sit down.
You're listening to the Cheaters Never Pin podcast, a proud part of the Section 328 family. Follow us on Twitter at CheatersInVRPin. Now, live from ringside, it's Mr. Workrate and JC. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're glad to have you here again for another episode of the Cheaters Never Pin podcast. We got a busy one today, don't we, Tom?
We do. There are many things going on. It doesn't always have to be a pay-per-view week.
Yeah. We got news and documentaries, and people actually sent us questions this week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for hashtag joining the conversation.
Because, when you guys participate, it makes our lazy asses look even better.
Less we have to do on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Write our show for us.
Yeah. Go buy stuff on Amazon for us. Just throw money at us on Patreon. Just do everything for us. So we can just sit here and shoot the shit for an hour a week.
I still need a new TV, just saying.
Still?
Yeah.
I forgot to ask for an update on that.
Black Friday's coming. So.
It is. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, I've heard somewhere. My wife mentioned that because Best Buy's got their circular, I guess, came out today.
Yeah.
So, or technically yesterday, if you're listening to this. But the circular came out, and I was looking at TVs there, and I was like, oh, there's a couple of good values there. And I'm like, oh, but the good values I want, they're in-store only. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, oh, you can go. And I'm like, no, I don't think I want to.
Well, I suppose let's do the smart thing and tell you what we're going to talk about up front here.
Why are we starting now?
We have a lot to do, and I'd still like to keep this to an hour because I think people prefer that.
Yeah, I mean,
to our 2-hour marathons we did when we started this thing.
We didn't do that many of them. I was looking back recently, and I'm just like, oh, there weren't that many. I mean, we kind of ventured into an hour and a half for a little bit, and then when we had the mega episodes for WrestleMania or things like that.
Spoiler alert, there's a Big Four pay-per-view in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that and NXT, that'll be an episode that absolutely will get to you early because that is Thanksgiving week. So we will, I'm sure, record that earlier than usual and get it to you. Or we can record it and then publish it on Thanksgiving, and you can fill your cornucopia with the sounds of body slams here on the Cheaters Never Pin podcast.
Because, hey, you're going to be in the kitchen. You're going to be preparing the green bean casserole. And, there's no Thanksgiving music. You don't want to do Christmassy music. You don't want to be that guy.
Yes, you do.
So you need something to listen to as you're sticking your hand up a turkey orifice. So why not allow the Cheaters Never Pin podcast to play in the background? You don't have to worry about skipping songs or anything like that. You don't have to worry about constantly hitting the 15-second button to skip past commercials.
Yes.
We're pure content, baby.
So make us part of your Thanksgiving tradition this year. But preferably not with children around, because as you know, I say fuck a lot. So unless that's cool with you, then whatever, I don't really care.
Warning not applicable in New York.
So we're going to talk about the Nature Boy 30 for 30. That's probably we'll lead off with
that. Happened.
That happened. That was a thing. Chris Jericho is going to go wrestle in Japan.
He's done that before.
But he's going to do it again.
Yeah.
We have a new WWE Champion. Hallelujah.
A couple of them, actually.
Yeah. Well, one that is the WWE Champion.
Right.
Two people got sent home from the European tour for disciplinary
naughty
actions. We already teased this, but you guys sent us your thoughts and questions on things. So we have an actual pin mail segment today.
We're gonna have to make up a song.
Yep. Well, yep. hopefully we'll remember to do that. And
No, we won't.
we won't. And then there's a match exchange. So.
And there'll be explosions.
Yeah. So start building your shelters now.
Yeah.
We coming for you with the match exchange. So let's just start with the Flair 30 for 30.
Okay, let's
do that. It was on Tuesday night. Beat was number 1 in the cable ratings. Beat SmackDown. Which I was like, of course it did.
There's after SmackDown too.
Yeah, but for the night it beat it. Yeah, so you probably had people flipping from one to the other. But
yeah.
it did draw an overall higher rating for the evening on cable.
It was the smart thing for ESPN to do, to have it at that 10 o'clock point, so that your wrestling audience, people that would have tuned in for that, wouldn't have to worry about conflict between that and SmackDown.
So, overall impressions off the top, what did you think of it? I know you went and did some big fancy radio, and
I got to talk.
See it early.
I got to. Before I was doing the podcast, I got to do a little segment for Hotline on West Virginia radio. And shout out to anyone who may be listening to the podcast as a result of my spot on Tuesday. But I got to talk to them a little bit about the 30 for 30, the Ric Flair 30 for 30. Got to see it a little bit early, which was bonus for me. But it was an hour and a half long with commercials. I think it was like 74 minutes or something like that without. So, but it wasn't groundbreaking necessarily if you're familiar with Flair's story. And I mean, there's 1.5 million Flair stories. The man is more legend than human being at this point. And it told a good story about for a person who, I mean, it was ideal for a 30 for 30, I think, because if you're a 30 for 30 watcher, if you're an ESPN person, you're watching 30 for 30s a lot of times without having any background onto the particular story, or maybe a little bit. You may have heard about something, but you don't know what really happened behind the scenes or anything like that. So for somebody who just kind of, I know who Ric Flair is, I watched wrestling in the 80s, or, somebody who's familiar with the name, but not necessarily with kind of the background. It was great for that. It opened up a lot about his growing up, his athletics, how he got into University of Minnesota, and then kind of delved into his training, and then kind of went on from there. And I think probably the most interesting thing from my perspective, at least, was his change in personality, it seems, from the plane crash that he was in 75.
Right.
Where his back was broken. So for those of you who don't know the actual story, I'll go quick, I swear. Flair and a group of wrestlers, promoters, wrestling people in general, got on a small plane to go to the next show, pretty much. The plane was, because of the amount of people that were on the plane, they dumped gas to begin with, which they don't actually say in the documentary, but they had put a smaller amount of gas into the plane because of weight regulations and the fact that you've got all these like huge wrestlers in here. So they ended up running out of gas, and then the plane ends up crashing. And it broke Flair's back. He had 3 vertebrae, I believe, that had to get fused together in his lower back. But it ended up, I think Johnny Valentine, who's Greg Valentine's father, was on that plane. He was injured to the point where he could never wrestle again. It ended his career. I think someone died. It may have been the pilot, but I mean, just there was a lot of injury and that type of thing. And from there, Flair kind of went, and it's not like he hit his head and changed his personality or anything like that, but he went from a traditional kind of grappler, larger guy, I guess, he just started to embrace this personality of the Nature Boy Ric Flair, this plane fly. And I don't know if part of it was people could say, oh, you were on the plane, your plane crashed. Oh, you were on a private jet. Oh, well, that's because, that's how I roll. I'm a jet flying, limousine riding, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he just kind of rolled off into that, and then just kind of told various stories about him from there. They interviewed his first wife, who he almost kind of wanted to hug because
she seems so nice.
And I think Flair actually tweeted out a picture recently of like his current fiance and his first wife at like a screening or something like that of the movie.
Weird.
And yeah, she just seems to be the point of like, yep, it happened.
Yep.
I married him. I'm not sure why.
Well, but she even kind of delves into this, but the business changed him so much that he became, he was no longer Richard Flair anymore. He was the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and embraced that lifestyle over himself.
Yeah.
So she wasn't married to the same guy anymore.
Yeah, and you could say whatever you will about why that happened. They kind of delved into a couple of possibilities. Flair himself seemed to imply that he himself didn't like Richard Flair. He liked Ric Flair.
Yeah.
He wanted to be Ric Flair. He liked the character of Ric Flair. He liked living the life of Ric Flair. And, well, if you get to live the life of Ric Flair, why the hell would you want to be Richard Flair anymore?
And see, that's the theory I like to believe the most because, they didn't delve into this in the show, but, Crockett and the promoters obviously, and this is a well-known fact, gave them money and gave them the cars and everything to where, like, if the 4 Horsemen are going out, they're going out to top restaurants and they're spending bank because this was back in the day when you were in kayfabe 24/7 in public when you're going from town to town. So he became, I like to think, he became accustomed to that kind of lifestyle, and it just never, he wasn't ever allowed to turn it off, so he didn't know how to turn it off.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, okay, exactly. You've got wrestlers that in the time of the 70s and the 80s, you're in kayfabe 24/7. If you're, Ric Flair isn't going to be eating at Taco Bell. That doesn't fit his personality.
Right.
So Ric Flair is going to, if you're going to see Ric Flair out, you're going to see him at the finest restaurant in Atlanta or whatever the case may be, because that's his character. That's Jimmy Crockett's given him, the money to turn around and go, we're giving you this money, but you have to turn around and you have to make people believe it. And Flair at the same time is going, thinking, well, this is the greatest thing ever.
Who wouldn't?
But, and I guess it's a thing too of like, if you listen to somebody like Ted DiBiase, who went to the WWF and got, for lack of a better term, a similar type of role, except he wasn't necessarily the ladies' man. He was just rich with the $1 Million Man gimmick. DiBiase would tell later on in his biographies and that type of thing that Vince McMahon pretty much made sure that he had a pocket full of hundreds at all times, because that was the thing. Again, Ted DiBiase's a $1 million man. He's not going to go into McDonald's and get a value meal. He's going to turn around and, wipe his ass with a $100 bill because that was the personality. And to be able to do this and to have people encouraging it because this is your character. This is what you need to do. It's like, telling Robert Downey in the 80s, like, no, we need you to snort cocaine.
Okay.
Oh, okay, you twisted my arm.
Oh, no.
So that's pretty much him. Ric Flair is living the personality of the Nature Boy to go out there and to make sure he's got a whole bunch of women on his arm and, end up on a plane where he's only wearing his robe and a pair of socks and alligator shoes and pretty much opening up his robe for the whole world to see.
Yep.
And of course, at that time, stewardesses are just going, oh
it's
TV,
not, it's not 25 years later during the plane ride from hell.
Yeah, where he's still doing the same thing. But
right.
yeah, that wasn't approached upon.
No.
That was one of the things that I think that the criticisms, I believe, that people were starting to say about the documentary is that his later years didn't really get approached that much.
Right.
They talked about him kind of entering a downtime after WCW ended. And, I mean, really, him near the end of WCW in general, he was not in the greatest of places.
Right.
And it was talked about that as during his end time at WCW dealing with Russo and Bischoff and things like that, that it pretty much destroyed his confidence. He ended up going to the WWE and guys like Hunter and those people bringing him, getting his confidence back up, going, dude, you're Ric Flair. Come on.
Right.
So it got his confidence back up to the point where he got in better shape, started doing matches again. I mean, he's still a 50-plus-year-old guy doing a limited amount that he can do, but what he could do at 50 is still more than what a lot of wrestlers in their time could do at 30. Mm-hmm. So, and they showed the clip of, I forget what WrestleMania it is, but his retirement match with Shawn Michaels, which still is one of, if not my favorite ending to a match.
Yeah.
To the point there's so much emotion there that like it's done so well.
Every time I see that clip, I still get chills and tear up. Even near that, I was like, oh God, not again.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry. I love you. Super kick, pin count, hug immediately after the 3. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just even like you had the moment with like, because the camera knows, so the camera's like tight on Shawn saying, mouthing the words. So like they did that, but like the extra moment at the end at the 3 count, as soon as 3 hits, and he just comes over and hugs him and starts to cry with Rick. Like, mm-hmm. That was the real moment. The other moment was kind of choreographed more so for TV, but the part afterwards, I think, was actual real feeling.
Yep. And then, of course, panning over to Ashley and David and Reed.
Yeah.
All crying and, ugh. God, I don't want to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
It still makes me sad.
But then they, in the documentary, then they go over and they show TNA. Like, yeah. And that was,
remember, he
that
didn't
was
actually
the
retire.
only little bit they kind of delved into that was like, it was almost like they kind of just mentioned like, oh, he needed money or he wanted to do it or he couldn't stay away or whatever. And it's like, no, he did it because he needed money and failed marriages and bankruptcies and legal issues. Mm-hmm. But we didn't touch upon that.
If they really wanted to get the TNA years over, they should have just shown the promo between him and Jay Lethal, where Jay Lethal was just doing Ric Flair back to Ric Flair. Because that may be one of my top 5 favorite promos of all time. And if you've never seen it, please seek it out. It's on YouTube. Just look up Jay Lethal Ric Flair. Because Jay Lethal may have the best Ric Flair in the business.
Yeah. And near the end, that was the I guess the heartbreak moment, or the drama moment, pretty much, where, I mean, and it's not even really approached that much of how shitty a father Flair was for his, like,
right.
They barely touched upon David. And I can't think of his sister's name, but from the first marriage.
Yeah.
Like, these are kids that, like, Rick pretty much didn't see at all. And it was Reed and Ashley that Rick saw more often, just because the schedule around that time wasn't as bad as before, and I think he realized kind of some of the aspects of, I kind of fucked up my other kids, that type of thing. But just then telling the story of Reed and basically painting the picture of Reed wanting desperately to be like Rick, to impress Rick, to do all the things that Rick did, whether it be the drinking or the wrestling or whatever. And the fact that pretty much Ric Flair's an impossible man in general. There's no reason he should be walking the earth.
Well, they even asked him, are you surprised you're still alive?
Yeah. And Reed Flair pretty much proved the fact that Rick is impossible, because Reed tried to be Ric Flair and it killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And and they kind of flip that around to turn around and going, well, almost like, well, if Reed hadn't have died, then Ashley would have become
Charlotte,
who she became.
Right. Which I think, doesn't she even touch on that? Like, it's kind of awful to think this, but, I have to live my brother's dream, and, without him passing away, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, I mean,
which is such a morbid thought, and like, we all know she has had issues in the past, but how you're able to be a functional human being with having that thought in the back of your head every day at work? Good Lord.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily the fact of, like, yes, the success came kind of almost as an afterthought, though. I think Ashley's belief more so is, I wouldn't be a successful human being in general. Not necessarily a wrestler, but like Ashley could be, an athletic trainer or, some other profession, not necessarily in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
Had she not been turned around by the fact that she was basically going down the same path as Reed.
Right.
Reed died as a result, and Ashley went, oh shit. I need some help. And it kind of put that in the same direction. Yes, it also pointed her in a direction like, here's something, Reed wanted to do. If you're kind of going rudderless right now, you're not sure what you should be doing, you're just kind of pissed off at your dad, maybe focus your life on doing something, whether it be what Reed wanted to do or something else with your life. And she just said, okay, I'm gonna follow Reed's dream. And then it ended up turning out well for her.
Yeah.
But it could have easily not. She could have been a bad wrestler. It's
true.
There are plenty of second generation wrestlers that it just doesn't work.
Right.
But
there are far more that it doesn't work than do click the way she has.
Yeah. But yeah, all in all, somebody said it on Twitter, I think today too, and I kind of laughed at it. I would totally watch the entire cartoon series of
Yes.
the Ric Flair cartoons.
Give me that on the network.
Because in the documentary, some of the stories that Flair tells or that other people were telling, they just kind of animated them instead of showing the person talking. They kind of animated Flair going through these things or other people. And cartoons are fun.
Yeah. I thought my overall thoughts were, trying to boil the story of Richard Flair and Ric Flair down into an hour and 15-minute made-for-TV, able to be aired special. Like, this was so well done for that. To give you, like you were talking about, the baseline amount of knowledge that an ESPN viewer would want without going too in-depth and too crazy. And to see elements added in, like the cartoons, like, taking the Sally Jesse Raphael thing and splitting it up throughout, telling the whole story of his family and everything. It told a very cohesive, easy to understand story to where you can kind of get the gist of who Ric Flair is and why Ric Flair is Ric Flair. And they achieved their goal. That was their goal.
Right. And
it was very well done. Again, we, those of us that know, not know everything, because obviously I'm not a member of the Flair family. I don't know everything. But, those of us who kind of know the stories and everything, yeah, there's stuff missing and there's stuff kind of glossed over, but overall, like, it was very well done. And it was fair. It did show the good and the bad. Even with WWE's hands, touching it, I'm sure, a little bit, or being involved with it. They were not afraid to still kind of delve into Rick's demons, which was nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that Rick had his own influence on it. I'm sure there are things that maybe could have been said that Rick didn't necessarily want to talk about. Right. Rick seemed to be careful of what he wanted to say and not say and that type of thing. He had no problem revealing how many times he masturbates in a day.
Right.
Yeah, additional knowledge I didn't need to know, but hey, okay, that's great. But
I mean, you hear something like that and you're like, that's something Ric Flair would totally say. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to hear 70-year-old Ric Flair say it, but yeah, that's Ric Flair.
No, but what I was going to get into too was, as you were saying, about the story and condensed and the amount of time that they had to tell it. I am a comic nerd as well as a wrestling nerd, so one of the things with superhero movies when they come out, especially first superhero movies in a series, is a lot of times they go for an origin story. So what you're basically doing with a first movie is you're telling the story a lot of times to people that are barely knowledgeable about that particular superhero. They need to know the story. They need to know why that person acts that way. A lot of times they're going into it not necessarily as a full-fledged fan, because you're telling the story to the mass market. You're not telling it to that specific small genre. So that's what this Flair documentary was. It was in essence like an origin story. You had to turn around. You had to tell his backstory. You couldn't turn around and spend 30 minutes on Flair versus Jim Herd or Flair versus Russo, or why he went to the WWF and why he ended up going back. They didn't spend a lot of time on that because 95% of the general ESPN audience doesn't know or care. Even a straightforward wrestling fan, a lot of times, doesn't necessarily care about the nuts and bolts of what happened behind the scenes with contract negotiations. They want the, the nitty gritty. They want to know if he left because he was sleeping with somebody's wife, then that would have been in the story. But because Jim Herd wanted to cut his hair and give him an earring, no one gives a shit about that.
Right.
So that's not going to get talked about.
It's fascinating to us. But,
Yeah.
You know.
We're not who we're not who they're shooting for.
No. Hardcore wrestling fans are not the target demo for this.
No.
But
and that's
still
fine.
enjoy it, yeah.
And that's ideal because something like that interests people. It's going to make people watch it and go, oh, I wonder what wrestling's like now, and open up that door potentially. So that's why WWE is going to open up the door and be like, hey, 30 for 30, absolutely. We'll plug this. We'll do what we want. We'll do what we can. We'll get it out there because that's getting wrestling back into the mainstream for those people that may have dropped off. It's like, oh, we'll watch that 30 for 30 and, oh, yeah, wrestling was kind of fun. And then maybe that gets them watching for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fun. And I can't hear myself. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you fine.
I don't know why I can't hear myself. Anyway, that's a fun thing we'll figure out when the show's over.
You're having a stroke.
Oh, God. Let's hope not. Yeah, so that was the Ric Flair 30 for 30. Definitely watch it if you have not. It is a must-watch.
Even if you know all the material, which, if you're a hardcore wrestling fan and you've read Flair's book, that type of thing, maybe you know all the story, it's still an entertaining watch.
Yeah, for sure. And, a fun thing is ESPN usually puts these 30 for 30s out on DVD and digital, so you can buy them and watch them whenever you want.
Well, that'd be something that I'd be interested in, especially with the holidays coming up. That might be a good holiday purchase.
Ooh, you could make like a whole Ric Flair kind of care package gift to send to somebody.
Yeah, you could do whenever the 30 for 30 comes out, or, pick up some WWE pay-per-views that he was on.
There's the new book that him and Charlotte wrote that's out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, if I wanted to build a package like that for somebody, where can I buy it?
Well, I've found that Amazon is a wonderful website to get pretty much all your shopping needs, but I don't go to Amazon just by typing in the Amazon.com address.
Huh?
No, I go to cheatersneverpin.com.
Oh.
So when I go to cheatersneverpin.com, when I see that staircase and the Cheaters Never Pin logo, I notice that there are two buttons below that. One is a Patreon button, which we'll get to later. And the other one is Amazon.com button. And what I do is I click on that Amazon.com button, and that brings me directly to Amazon.com. Just the same as if I went to Amazon.com directly. But the difference is that when you go to cheatersneverpin.com, click on that Amazon.com button and shop there and do your shopping as you normally would, the price that you get charged when you buy all those goodies, the Ric Flair DVDs, the mouth guard for jiu-jitsu that you want to purchase for some reason.
There's an entire Ric Flair costume robe and wig. I know it's not Halloween anymore, but I mean, if you want to plan for next year, or if you want to show up for Thanksgiving like this.
I'm sure people do that. Pretend it's Starrcade at your very own home.
Yes! There we go.
So you put those things in your shopping cart, you go, you pay for them. It costs you the same exact as if you would have gone to Amazon.com directly. But what Amazon.com does as a thank you for going to Cheaters Never Pin is they take a few cents of that profit that they make and they give it to us. So you pay the same amount, Amazon makes less money, and we get a few cents in the process.
Nice.
So when you do that, you're bringing down Amazon slowly. The big conglomerate that Amazon is, you're bringing them down just a little bit, taking pennies out of their pocket and giving it to us, the little guys.
Yeah.
So damn the man, go to cheatersneverpin.com and go to Amazon that way.
There's even a Ric Flair ugly Christmas t-shirt. So there you go. Now we're in the spirit of the season here.
That's something that you're going to want.
Yeah. It's only $14.99 with Prime shipping.
I mean, don't make me go all Don West on it. We have ugly sweaters and Ric Flair.
If you buy one, I'm going to throw in 5 DVDs.
There's a Ric Flair sweater here. Ken Griffey Jr. is here. It's his rookie card.
Oh. So, Chris Jericho's going to wrestle in New Japan.
Oh.
Boy, howdy. Cool. So, I was kind of very lukewarm about this Wrestle Kingdom card before.
Right.
Like, looking at it, I was like, it looks pretty good. Like, it'll be a good show. It's Wrestle Kingdom. Like, New Japan's on fire this year. It's their big show in the Tokyo Dome. So, add a half star to every match. But then they had this match, and I go, boy, I'm like super interested now. I don't think the card is any better, but my interest is way up.
I mean, I pretty much watch the Tokyo Dome show for the Battle Royal to start.
That was the one thing you were most excited for last year.
I was so excited for that.
And I was most excited for Cody.
Yeah.
Who will still be on the show this year. What is the rest
I
of the
mean,
card? Let's find out.
You got to get excited to see. Oh, yeah, Cody's wrestling.
He's defending the ROH belt, and I can't remember against who.
Oh, man.
Hold, please. Vamp Tom.
It's a name, too.
Kota Ibushi. That's right. Jesus, how did I forget that? Yes. It's because they have to stave off, since Omega's fighting Jericho. They're staving off the feud between Omega and Ibushi for the U.S. belt. We won't get into why that's way interesting on this podcast.
Yeah. That's for the Cheaters Never Gaijin podcast.
Joshi's Never Pin. Or Japanese wrestling podcast.
Yes. But, yeah, and what I love is something like this just stirs up the smart marks so much.
Oh, God. Reddit was a fucking shit show, dude. After the acid. It's like, ooh, but Vince is mad. Oh, he's got so much heat. It's like, whoa.
No. No, I don't know what you're talking about. This is Vince's plan.
Oh, yeah. The entire conspiracy theory, oh, that means Omega's going to come to WrestleMania. Fuck you. No, he's not. Shut up.
It's a secret talent exchange because he's going to go over, he's going to wrestle in New Japan, and then Omega and the Bucks are going to come over for Royal Rumble, and it helps everyone.
Yeah, okay.
It's a win-win proposition.
That's
people. Not how it works.
I realize, and I would say this, people would be like, yes, I realize Chris Jericho is a WWE loyalist. Like, he's openly talked about this a lot. But, hey guys, Vince isn't going to work with New Japan. It's not his style. If this was Hunter running the company, all right, your theory might have a little credence to it, but still probably not. But also, he's not under contract, and you know what? He wasn't under contract for like the last 2 months he was in WWE. He was on a handshake agreement.
Yeah.
Like, Chris just comes and goes as he pleases, and I don't think Vince isn't going to be mad that he's going to go get a damn payday.
Here's the thing. Vince can be as mad as he wants to. Jericho doesn't care.
No.
He
doesn't need the money.
He's done. He's got his bank.
Yeah.
He's I mean, for lack of a better term, he's wrestling for fun right now.
Yeah.
He enjoys WWE. He's not like other people that have left WWE on bad terms or anything like that. He gets to walk into WWE. He gets to pretty much do what he wants to. And he's got a level enough head that he's not going in there going, I need this title, I need this, otherwise I'm not coming. He's doing enough creative freedom where he gets to kind of do what he wants to do, and everybody's working well with him. But he's not going to go to New Japan and suddenly Vince is going to like ban him from the Hall of Fame and
Right. He's
blackball him and like go all Benoit on his history or anything like that.
It's a one-off. Maybe we'll see him in a multi-person tag the next day at New Year Dash. Who knows? Probably not. But it's probably a one-off. And guess what? Probably 2 or 3 weeks later, you're going to see him at the Rumble.
Yeah. And I mean,
What?
and Jericho's got a history in New Japan anyway.
Yeah. The Lionheart has been there before.
Yeah.
Did you see the petition that someone put up on Reddit to send Chris Jericho this petition to make him wear the Lionheart pants in New Japan? I was like, okay. I didn't sign it, but I was like,
No, he's going to be Super Liger.
That'd be fun. But yeah, so look forward to that January 4 in Tokyo Dome.
Damn, I may have to. I don't know. Are we going to do it again this year?
I mean, I am. I'll be here.
I've kind of got the day circled, and again, I mentioned it last week. It's my wife's birthday as well, but my wife's birthday comes during the rest of the day, not at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Well, here's my thing too. Like, this is my issue. It starts at what, like 1:15, 2 o'clock in the morning on the 4th, here on the East Coast. So like, freaking have to take the 3rd and the 4th off for like the 3rd so you can sleep all day. And then the 4th to like recover.
And I've heard that our podcast partner Mike may be interested in joining the party, the 3 a.m. party.
I've heard a rumor that this party may be moved to the worldwide headquarters on the big screen.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
That would be. Oh yeah, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I'd be down with that too.
Yeah, big comfy seating. I'm in.
I'd be asleep already.
Yeah. We have a new WWE Champion in the phenomenal AJ Styles, the new 2-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Oh, that's not the title. It's just WWE Champion. Sorry.
Our long national nightmare is over.
Hallelujah. So, I just want to know why. Like, it's so part of me, like, there's so many reasons you can say, why did they do this? Like, one, all right, let's do something big in the UK while we're here, which is a legit reason to make people go.
Right.
You know, usually nothing happens on these shows. We had 2 title changes in 2 days.
Right.
Okay. All right. That makes people think, all right, the next time they come here, I might see something. I'm going to buy a ticket and go. 2, could be just they finally realized, like, taking even the Halloween rating out of the equation, because that was really, really incredibly bad, but it was Halloween.
Right.
Ratings have been on a sharp decline in the age of gender. So maybe they finally realized, this isn't really working too well. We should probably have a champion people care about. 3, since the tag titles on Raw changed hands Monday night, there was not a babyface champion in the organization. So probably need to fix that somehow, because Brock doesn't count. I mean, people cheer Brock, but I mean, he plays heel.
Right, Brock's champion. I'm sorry.
And yeah, and you know, he will be heel in this match for sure now.
Oh yeah.
And that's just his work style anyway. So it works better. I mean, in 4, like maybe 5. I don't remember where I was. People just didn't, and not in this day and age that changing a match 2 weeks out is going to up your network subs or your ticket sales like this in the way pro wrestling works now. But, man, no one give a shit about Jinder and Brock. Maybe we're trying to fix that card?
I wanted to see it because I like to watch the world burn.
I mean, I was interested to see it, but now I want to see it. Now I want to see AJ and Brock.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm less interested. I'm still interested, but I'm less interested because I really wanted to see that train wreck.
Oh God,
Out of completely morbid curiosity.
Yep. But then you have to look.
See.
AJ got the best match out of him he's ever had.
Yeah.
That was a good match Tuesday night.
And the thing that I was thinking too, because you're talking about why now? Well, figure Mahal's had 3 programs. This is his 3rd. He had Orton for seemingly 3 months. Then he had Nakamura for 2 months.
Yep.
So, the Orton thing, you're not going to put the belt back on him because that's just whatever.
Right.
And part of me wonders if the Nakamura thing, if they're still afraid. If Vince is back there going, if we're going to take the belt off of Jinder, do we put it on this other guy and have it still flounder a little bit potentially? Because they don't know about him necessarily.
Right.
Is he going to get over all right? He's not necessarily somebody that we can put on, Kelly Ripa's show or anything like that. It's someone that we can sell necessarily. He's a great personality. He's somebody who I think still sells tickets, but.
Well, and the thing with Shinsuke too is he's already over. Putting the belt on him, cool, we're really excited because he's champion, but the money for him is going to be in the chase.
Right.
Just slapping the belt on him isn't going to... we really want him to chase. And if, the belief was, all right, Cena was going to be the special guest referee in the Brock Jinder match to set up the build to Cena Jinder, to where Cena's taking the title off of him. Well, now Cena's in the Survivor Series match on Team SmackDown, so maybe we've kind of put that on the back burner. AJ's got the belt, and we kind of maybe this is the beginning of the build to Mania, with AJ holding the belt from now till then. Maybe Shinsuke wins the Rumble, and we headline WrestleMania with AJ versus Shinsuke. It's a possibility. It's still too far out, I think, to really get a grasp on what they're doing. Because, they like to telegraph things a little bit. I mean, we'll know after Survivor Series, after Thanksgiving, we'll have a pretty good grasp on what the direction for Mania is starting to be.
Right.
But who knows? Interesting though. They did say in the promo they put on YouTube after, this is the first ever overseas title change for the WWE Championship. I don't know if that's true or not.
I looked it up. Technically, yes.
Okay, I figured it was one of those kind of things. Hey.
Well, first off, theoretically, Buddy Rogers won the WWF Championship in a tournament final in Rio de Janeiro when the WWF was originally formed,
Right.
when Vince Sr. seceded from the NWA and took Buddy Rogers as his champion. They needed a way to put the belt on him, so there was the hypothetical tournament in Rio de Janeiro.
Very, very much in the same way that Pat Patterson won the first ever IC championship in Rio.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
But and theoretically, I think there was a title change in Japan where I think probably Backlund lost the title to Inoki. And one of those, Inoki wins, but then gives the title back 3 days later and it's never acknowledged.
Right.
But yeah, that's the only official title, WWF or WWE Championship title change overseas.
That's what I figured. I figured there was at least one hokey thing in the past, but the first official one that people witnessed. But yeah, so cool. Congrats to AJ Styles. A stellar 2 years in WWE. Feels like he's been here forever. And I mean that in a good way. I mean that in a good way. A lot of times you could say that about people and be like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, he's been here 6 months and I'm sick of him. No. I feel like AJ's always been here in a good way.
It's weird that he's been here only half the time that Hideo Itami has.
Who?
Exactly.
Yeah. But you gotta look at, too, AJ came in such a pivotal kind of changing time for the company. Like, he came at the Rumble before the draft, before the brand split, which has been, a huge thing that they've stuck to for almost 2 whole years, and I'm real proud of them for. So, the last one lasted, what,
to the point where
7 years?
We're getting real Rumbles and sieges and all that type of thing going on.
It's November. Of course you're getting sieges. Duh. It's the one time a year. Last but not least, in our long news show tonight, we'll be brief on this because there aren't many details, but it appears that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were dismissed from the European tour for disciplinary reasons. Because apparently, according to the way Ryan Satin's reporting this over at Pro Wrestling Sheet, something happened at the end of their match on SmackDown to where either Owens didn't break up the pin in time or something. It reads like he doesn't quite know what's going on either with that exactly. But anyway, but then they refused to stay in the ring for the beatdown after the match and powdered. And also it may have to do with the promo they cut, which has been sourced as them potentially going into business for themselves. And again, all of this fits in storyline wise too, so take that with caution.
Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, it looks like to this point now that Sammy and Kevin Owens are not going to be on Survivor Series, which kind of boggles my mind at this point, but that's the direction they seem to be going in because neither one of them is fitting on Shane's team, which realistically makes sense.
Right. Because
I don't know why there's no reason Kevin Owens should be wanting to be on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because there should still be heat between him and Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon jumped off of a fucking 15-foot high cage and damn near killed himself because Sammy came and saved him. So yes, the realistic aspect of it should be Shane McMahon should be like, fuck you guys, you're not getting to play in my game.
Yep. And it definitely feels that way a little bit. But we'll see. Who knows? We'll come Thursday when we have our go home. We'll know. Right? No,
yeah.
Thursday's not the go home. We have one more week. Right? Yes. So, yeah,
I don't even know what today's only the 8th. Yeah, we've got 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we'll know more Thursday. But it feels storyline to me. It feels like the thing they would be like, oh, let's just send him home and not tell anybody. Make it look this way, and then who knows? But
I mean, they've got enough of a roster, and technically, it's them not being there makes it more storyline than anything. I mean, to the point where it fits in. Yeah, it sucks for people who may have potentially wanted to see them on tour, but they'll make up for it.
Yeah. Hey, Tom.
Yes, JC?
It's time for Pin Mail.
Pin Mail. Pin Mail.
I was going to go with
Pin Mail.
Oh, it's still going. Okay. Is it done?
Yeah, I think so.
I was just going to go with Pin Mail. Pin Mail. Pin Mail. Pin Mail. That worked.
Baby girl.
So, hey, thank you to everyone that sent us stuff. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
On a more than us having to plan less. No, I just appreciate interacting with you folks. So first up, from the OG El Patron at Tweets from Seth. There's 3 here, and him being the OG El Patron, he gets all 3.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're El Patron.
Yep, instead of a dirty bitch.
Yeah. He cut the line, too. He wasn't the first one to send something in, but he gets to cut the line.
He does.
He's got the fast pass.
Number 1, 30 for 30. Did omitting David Flair's WCW run leave off a big talking point? I'm going to say no.
David Flair's WCW run is its own 30 for 30.
Oh, Jesus. That's like a 7 for 39 seconds.
Him managing to score Stacy Keibler is its own 30 for 30 in itself.
There we go. That's where the story is.
That's sports science. That's goddamn PhDs drawing that shit out.
Number 2, Jason Jordan in Survivor Series. Easy pin for SmackDown Live at the start or the end of Kurt Angle's Sun storyline? I'm leaning towards end of the Sun storyline. We're telegraphing. I won't say end of the storyline. I'm going to tweak this a little bit. Jason Jordan's going to turn heel because that way people might actually finally start caring about him. And we've already started to tease this with Kurt being like, "You're the only one I can trust." So he's going to do something. Maybe he's the first pin and then he turns heel. So both. There we go.
In some sort of like Hart family thing where he's the only one who gets eliminated, then he comes back and like gets pissed off at everybody else.
Yeah, that'll work.
Sure, why not?
Number 3, is AJ versus Nakamura the only logical response to Omega versus Y2J? I think AJ versus Nakamura is a bigger match than Omega versus Y2J.
I don't think it's a response because I don't think Vince cares.
Yep.
It's great, and I'd love to see it. I want to see that match. I want to see it badly on a stage like WrestleMania. I don't want to have it on Backlash. I don't want to have it on like some C-grade pay-per-view. I want it on a main stage.
Yeah. Yep. That time is coming, and the pieces are falling into place.
Have it as a one-time dream match, something like that, and then...
Oh, Jesus. I can't wait.
I want a Nakamura WrestleMania entrance.
Oh, yeah. 70,000 people in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome all singing along. Jesus.
It'll be 14 minutes long.
But we probably won't have The Undertaker, so that'll work. We've got time.
That's okay.
Yeah. From co-host of our sister podcast, the Cheaters Never Win podcast, Derek writes in, why did so many tag teams in the 80s have Express in their names? Because they were all so fast, Derek.
Name me more than 3.
Rock and Roll, Midnight.
And the Lightning Express of Tim Horner and Brad Armstrong.
That's correct. I did watch that match. I already forgot about it.
Good job. Well, they weren't the Lightning Express in that match, technically.
Well, a lot of people had Midnight. You had Midnight Express, Midnight Rockers.
Well,
yep.
They were the Midnight Rockers because Vern Gagne already had CTE by this time, so he just went, wait, who are the 2 best tag teams out there right now? The Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express. Well, we'll call them the Express Express.
No Vern. From Noah Zark 84 at Inlock716 on Twitter. What are your thoughts on a potential Shinsuke versus AJ title match at Mania with Shinsuke going over? Yes, please. We've touched on this a lot in the last 20 minutes, but
I don't think Shinsuke goes over.
Maybe they want to start building, that Japan business.
I mean, I'd like to see him with at least one run of the title.
Yeah.
And title changes at WrestleMania are always good for a good pop.
Yep. And that one would be giant. So,
I think if you're gonna do it there.
yeah. This was not even a question, but a comment from our friend Corey Lavalette over at the North State Journal online, nsjonline.com. There we go.
And yes,
there we go. I plugged that right.
Good plug.
Thank you. His comment is just, there was only one tag team, the Killer Bees.
Fuck the Brian Blair. Break his back, make him humble.
Okay. I have no comment. Then from @RealChrisCote on Twitter. What is the best costume, and why is it Chris Jericho's scarf? Of course this question would come from a Canadian.
Of course. Because, there's not enough Biff Wellington references.
Would he be... Now, if it was a denim scarf, would you be even more excited? Denim scarf, denim trunks, denim boots. Whoa.
Ooh.
Yeah. Light up denim scarf. There we go, of course.
Denim scarf on a pole.
All right, Vince Russo, stop it. Bro, what if we put this... All right, I'll stop my Russo impersonation.
Yeah.
But, screw it, let's just move on to the match exchange. Match exchange. I looked at the time and I was going to try to shoehorn in the Patreon ad, and I was like, there's not time.
No.
So just go to cheatersneverpin.com and click the Patreon button and give us your money if you appreciate things. You can also be an El Patron like our buddy Seth and not a dirty bitch.
Yeah.
There you go. Good point.
There you go.
So what did you watch this week, Tom?
I watched Sami Callihan defend some title.
Sami Callihan, who's going to be in the heavyweight tag tournament in New Japan coming up here shortly. Yeah. Tagging with
Tag League.
With Juice Robinson.
Yeah. That should be an interesting team.
Look at that.
I look forward to watching that.
That's 2 weeks in a row I picked someone and they made news.
Yeah.
His debut.
It's a little freaky. Yeah. He took on Tommy fucking End. Now known as Aleister Black. In a kick me then I kick you match.
Accurate.
I watched this and I don't have notes because I don't take notes for the most part. Because it was just a stiff ass match. Kicks, more kicks, stiff on the outside. One of the things that I think triggered to me too was watching this match. How I can remember in the 90s, ECW and how those crowds got off on stiff work and how a match like this, it didn't have a lot of high spots. It had some decent spots here and there, but nothing huge or anything like that. But this would have been a great ECW match. Just with the stiff kicks and the drops and the kind of interaction with the ringside people. It would have been a great match there. It's a match that pretty much works in almost all environments, because I think that you could have had a match like this on a Raw or a SmackDown and gotten the crowd involved in that. You could have had that match on, ECW mid-90s and gotten that crowd into it. You could have had this match in WCW and the crowd would have not gotten into it because Tony Schiavone would have been talking about Sting potentially coming in 2 hours, but that's regardless. It's an evergreen type of match, and it's not going to blow your doors completely off, but it's one of those matches that you could throw on and just get sucked into.
Yep.
I really enjoyed it. 4 stars.
Yeah. That's actually a higher rating than I probably would have given it. I probably would have given it 3.5. Just like you said, it's just a solid, fun match to watch.
Do you want me to knock it down a 1/4 star?
No, you're good.
It
happened overseas, so
3 3/4 stars.
Oh, God damn it. So I watched Brad Armstrong and Tim Horner versus the Midnight Express. And this was standard 1980s tag team wrestling. And I mean that in a good way. One, I'm just simply mesmerized by Jim Cornette's purple suit jacket or sport coat with the red lapel. I stared at it the entire time, especially with the yellow tie under it. I think I'm blind. Thank God there was no HD. But other than that, I mean, I think you gave me this to watch Brad Armstrong in particular, who I'd not seen any of before. He's real good. He's a good wrestler. Very like wrestler kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like good work, good selling, like just solid. Like would never be on a list of like he's one of the greatest of all time. But if you asked wrestlers, like yeah, he knew what he was doing. He was on, everything was crisp and clean. Like again, and this kind of goes back to us talking about during the Ric Flair 30 for 30. Like we kind of get it because we've watched a lot of wrestling. We know don't know the inside stuff. That sounds really smarky. But like, you know, we kind of know what we're watching. And I can sit back and appreciate it for what it is. Other than that, standard match, 3 stars. Yeah, it wasn't anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything crazy, but it was fun. It was again very much like the match you watched. Like, I can turn this on and just watch it, and I'm good with it.
Yeah,
like,
and I mean, especially for the channel that it would have been on, because that was like a WCW Pro match, so that would have been the main event of whatever syndicated show that you were watching that week.
Yeah, would not have been upset.
2 things I always used to marvel at with Brad when I would watch him wrestle is, 1, the man could throw a drop kick beautifully.
Yeah.
Like shoulder length, just would get up ideally and just roll off of that and just land ideally each time. And I don't think you necessarily got to see it in this match, but Brad's finisher was the Russian leg sweep, which you tell somebody that now, they'll laugh at you.
Right.
Because a Russian leg sweep is a transitional move. It's just, it's like saying, oh, my finishing move is the body slam. It's not. That's just something he would do. And have you seen him do his finisher, his leg sweep finisher?
No.
I'll send you a YouTube link. He would set up and it would just be like, oh, David Crockett screams out, oh, he's going for the Russian leg sweep, oh. And he would just put in the leg sweep and just drop and float over, and it looked like the most like effective move. Like it worked, and it amazed me because I'd see guys like Bret Hart, would do a Russian leg sweep in every match, and just other people do this transitional move, and it's like, oh, it is. He'd do it, you'd be like, damn, match is over. It looked like a finishing move.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, that's what I remember about Brad. The fact that that's how I look at his wrestling ability, is the fact that he could take a transitional move like Russian leg sweep and actually make it look like a goddamn finisher.
Nice. Yeah, I have to see that.
So, yeah.
So we're going to do something a little bit different for Match Exchange this week.
Thank God.
Yes. A break would be
As
nice.
I was scrambling to look for matches, I'm going, oh.
So, since we're coming up on Survivor Series, this year is going to be the 20th anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob. So this week, we're both going to rewatch the Screwjob, and I think it's also important to watch the Brett Screwed Brett promo. Because these 2 things are very pivotal moments in the history of WWE.
Yeah, it was such a turning point.
Yeah. So, that's what we're going to watch. I'm not even going to link it on the website because, I think you should listen all the way to the end of this and just do what we say.
Yeah.
So, watch Survivor Series 97. Watch the main event. Watch the Screwjob. It was Raw the next night, right? Was Brett Screw Brett?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking earlier, I was like, wasn't it a week later? And I was like, no. So, anyway, watch those 2 things. Then we're going to talk about that next week in honor of the 20th anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob.
God, I'm old.
Yeah, I was 9.
Shut up. Stop.
I think that does it on this, what has become by our standards, super long episode of Cheaters Never Pin.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, sorry about that. But there was a lot to cover this week. So, Tom, tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Go to the Twitter machine, at Mr. Workrate, at MR Workrate. Go to MySpace, and then don't. I don't do the other things. Does MySpace even work now? I don't even know.
Yeah, you can move that other Tom out of your top 6 and put this Tom in your top 6. Look at that.
Yeah, I think I have glitter in my profile or something.
Mine automatically plays some like Coldplay when you go to it. I don't know. Anyway, that joke died a miserable death. So if you want more jokes that die a miserable death, you can follow me on Twitter at JCBobbitt, JCBOBBITT. That's the best place to find me. You can find the show on Twitter at CheatersNeverPin, CheatersNVRPin. We're there. Send us your pin mail thoughts for next week about the screw job and your memories and everything too. Because that was fun to cover this week.
Yeah, we'll talk about them.
Yeah, we got time to fill. Let's see. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/CheatersNeverPin.
Yeah.
If you're shopping on Amazon, click the Amazon button at CheatersNeverPin.com. And if you really
like the show, if you didn't get that from earlier.
Yeah, if you really like the show and just want to throw your money at our faces, you just go to CheatersNeverPin.com and click the Patreon button on the front page.
Yeah.
I think it does it. I think I got it on there. Rate, review, subscribe. We kind of covered that. Oh, now we did. Tell your friends. Tell your friends about this podcast.
Tell your enemies.
That's probably what you should do. Yeah, so we'll be back next week with getting you ready for Survivor Series 2017, and then talking about Survivor Series 1997. And then Thanksgiving week, we'll review all the madness of War Games and Survivor Series. So, big couple weeks coming up here on the podcast.
And who knows what pie I'll try to eat during the middle of the podcast.
Ooh, that's true. Guess online. Send us your what pie Tom should eat. Hashtag pie mail. Please don't search that, children.
No.
Yeah. So, I think that'll do it. So I'm JC.
I'm Tom.
And we'll catch you on the flip side.